after tonight. You don't have to look up at the stars. No. I know.
Take a look at my dream world.
Tonight. You don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat. If you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice. I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run. Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps. You gotta jump. No trouble, no double. I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star. Swag so fresh, you can put it in the jar. And the way I change gear, you can put me in the car. I remember when me and Seif used to sneak in every concert door. Now I got my feet in. Every day is Get Friday, no weekend.
You don't have to look up at the stars.
Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite live sports show that is not named Stuff About Sports and Greenbage. It is indeed hashtag this just in, but I have brought Jerm from Stuff About Sports and Ken from Greenbage. What's up, gentlemen?
Good evening.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here as always.
As always, and you all know Neil. Neil knows no introduction or needs no introduction. We just brought him up for the cellar to finally have his FaceTime.
To talk about the Lakers, I think this is a don't start me, yo. I was so vexed when he was like, "Yeah, Neil, you want to come on the show?" I said, "All of a sudden know that we don't." Anyhow, go ahead. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm okay, guys. I'm okay.
And in that vein, Neil decided to put on his Laker yellow, but we won't talk about the Lakers until the very, very end of the show.
Should have worn my Kobe Bryant.
What we will talk about is a certain 8 seed who had to go through the play-in tournament and en route to getting here, destroyed the Milwaukee Bucks, ran through the New York Knicks, and have the favored Boston Celtics down 3-0. Like, what a playoff run. So, Jerm, you've not been here in a wild minute. What has led to this surprising Miami Heat playoff run?
2 words. Jimmy Butler. That's it. This is one of the most incredible team playoff runs, but by a single player. I mean, something that'll be talked about for decades. I'm talking like playoff Jimmy Butler. What he's done, what this team has done, has, to me, made the regular season pretty much meaningless. And I shouldn't be surprised that Jimmy Butler's doing this. He was out there charging dudes $20 for K-Cups when they were in the bubble. I mean, the savagery of the man. And now look at him. And I'm telling you guys, right now, if Jimmy Butler takes out Giannis, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then eventually takes down Nikola Jokic, Jimmy Butler will have the mantle of best player in the NBA.
And that is Jerm giving us a very, very early preview as to what we have coming later in the show.
I love it.
Same question. I didn't see that one coming. Same question, Ken. Is it just Jimmy Butler, or is there more to Miami's shocking playoff run?
So, first, let me thank Jerm, because Jimmy has been my guy in the NBA since he got chased out of Chicago. Jimmy, I have always felt, got a bad rap wherever he went. People wanted to say, oh, he's this and he's that, he's a bad teammate, the third and the fourth. Jimmy Butler, I have always figured, has been a bit unappreciated, and people just don't understand him. You know, he's been misunderstood for the majority of his career. But as good as Jimmy has been, I don't think that we can chalk up what is happening in Miami right now, or in terms of this run, to him alone. And I know we are going to talk about his supporting cast in a little bit, so I'll just leave that point for a second. But let's look at what he's done and who he's done it to so far, this playoff run. So in the first round, they came in as the 8th seed and they went up against the number 1 seed in Milwaukee Bucks. That's out by you, Justin. Not your squad, but that's where you reside. So
don't mind him, Ken. That's his squad. No. Don't let him trick you. Sons.
Okay. Well, I guess we can get to that in a second too. But when we look at what Milwaukee did not do in these playoffs, and this is the opportunity that I get to make the usual statement that I make, which is that Budenholzer was, in this case, the second worst coach in the playoffs. second only to Chris Finch, who was the worst coach in the playoffs. Because Finch really had no right being there in the first place. But anyhow, Budenholzer, he does not know what kind of adjustment, well, what is an adjustment? Somebody needs to point that out to him in the dictionary and then give him a basketball application. So when Giannis went down very early in game one and then missed all of game two, came back and was hobbled a bit later on in the series, Coach Bud has absolutely no clue what to do with the rest of his squad, which is actually a pretty good team to make an adjustment to be able to take this team past a very game Miami team. All right, so that was round one. And then in round two, they went up against the New York Knicks. And nobody expected the Knicks to be good. And nobody expected the Knicks to be good enough to reach the Eastern Conference Finals. So they go up against Miami again, and Miami does what Miami does. They play hard basketball. They play team basketball. Jimmy Butler is, get on my back, guys. I'm going to take you to the promised land. And New York has absolutely no answer for anything that is being done by Jimmy in this playoffs. So go figure. Miami has been the better team for each of the rounds that they've been in, regardless of them having that number 8 seed. And we're seeing them now against the Celtics, and they're showing that they're the better team again.
Oh, can't really complain with that. Neil, like, is there anything to add? Is it Jimmy Buckets? Like, what has really spurred this AFC that came from playing tournament to be on the brink of making yet another NBA Finals?
Well, of course, it's Jimmy Buckets. No, I didn't want to admit this, right? But I will do it now. Back in 2020, when we were in the bubble and we won against the Miami Heat, my favorite player for that postseason was Jimmy Butler because he, I mean, yeah, of course, you know, you got to respect. Couldn't say that at the time because I think we even did a live show somewhere in Bubbles, but we couldn't say that at the time. But no, Jimmy Butler is incredible. I think that he is my favorite player today in the NBA. He is about winning. He is about playing basketball the right way. I know that's a very cliche thing to say, but he is about playing basketball the right way. He will do literally anything to let his team win, to make his team win, or put them in a position to win. And then also you have to credit Spoelstra. Got to credit Pat Riley, the organization, the culture, and Bam Adebayo, the others that you have there. But really and truly, I think you have to credit Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is an amazing, amazing talent. Like, he's not about getting his 30 points a night. He's not about getting his 25 points a night. He's very comfortable to get 10, 5 on 5 once it means that his team is winning. So you have to respect the fact that, you know, the 8th seed, nobody had them here except the Miami Heat fans. Not even the Miami Heat fans had them here.
Not even.
I think it speaks so much about the culture of the Miami Heat. And we can get down to that a bit further when we talk about players and stuff like that. But for me, it's Jimmy. But Jimmy get buckets. Butler, he is fantastic.
I saw what you did there. I believe it too, by the way. So
me too.
You know, every time that Jerm comes on this show, right? I just love to see him. So I have to bring numbers because, you know, Jerm is more about the eye test than I am about the stats. So, I mean, y'all all mentioned Jimmy, so I mean, that's an obvious, but I will quickly roll through why you have to start with Jimmy. I mean, the man is averaging 36.5 and 5.5, right? And for context as to why those stats are really great, right? He has raised his scoring by 7 points from the regular season and almost everything else from the regular season. So he's raised his rebounding, assists, steals, 3-point shooting, field goal attempts, and free throw attempts, right? Y'all also touched on it, right? Like, I don't believe I have to say this or people have to say this and it comes as a shock. But Eric Spoelstra may be indeed the best coach in the NBA, if at the very worst, top 3, right? And I can't believe it's like he's been here 15 years. But night in and night out, I watch this man and you know it is great coaching because, one, the Heat are never underprepared for a moment. Like, they're always prepared for whatever moment. They never lack for execution. And late game scenarios and situations, you will never outplay the Heat. Like they're not going to make mistakes. Like you have to beat them, but you will not rely on their out mistakes. Kind of like what Bill Belichick does with the Patriots. Like they sit down and wait for your mistakes. You're never going to get mistakes from an Eric Spoelstra-led Heat team. But gentlemen, as much as I talk about Jimmy and as much as I talk about Eric Spoelstra, the reality for me, I think, is that the Miami Heat have caught on fire at the best time possible. Like when you look from all of these undrafted players, and we're going to mention them just shortly, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry himself, obviously not undrafted, and even Jimmy Butler. All of these guys are shooting lights out from behind the arc, and that's not what they were doing during the regular season. During the regular season, these numbers are paltry. And I will give you these numbers right now. As a team, I think the Miami Heat are tied with Denver for the best three-point percentage in the playoffs at, I want to say, 39%. In this round, they are shooting 49%. 49% from behind the arc in this round. When you go through the entire postseason, Duncan Robinson went from 32.8 in the regular season, 44.7 now. Caleb Martin, 35.6 to 41.5. Vincent, 33 to 38. Kevin Love, 29.7, 36.5. And it goes on with Max Strus and Kyle Lowry. Every one of them have gone to a ridiculous level of three-point shooting in this postseason. So it leads us to say they have caught fire at the right time possible. Obviously, execution has a lot to do with that, but if you're going to get hot from behind the arc, this is the best time. Did you want to add something, Jerm? It seemed like you want to hop in.
No, it just like literally piggybacking what everybody said is it's keep saying the same two words that I said at the beginning is Jimmy Butler. Yep. It's at the end of the day, and again, yes, we're going to talk about the undrafted players and the makeup and who's responsible, but think about what this team has accomplished, right? They were a play-in team. Thank God for the play-in, or else we wouldn't have had this, right? They're an 8th seed. They would have had to gone through the 1 and 2 seed and the two teams who had the best 2 records in the NBA with 7 undrafted players, and then 2 of their key contributors in Tyler Hero and Oladipo. Victor Oladipo hurt. I mean, if Jimmy Butler is able to pull this off, and he would absolutely be the Finals MVP, I would assume, that would to me put him over Dirk as the most valuable ring of all time. Just everything about this Miami Heat run, now that my Sixers are out of it, has been magical. And like you said, getting hot at the right time, no pun intended. The Heat are literally on fire. Jimmy Butler was hitting and ones off the glass off one leg, falling backwards as Grant Williams was pushing him on the ground. And he hit a couple of those throughout the game, just wild and one shots that just keep going in. And the Heat can't miss. It's just been, for me, unbelievable. So yeah, Jimmy Butler, as you coach Spo, best coach in the league. I think what he's been able to do is been amazing. And then the Godfather, Pat Riley, putting it all together.
So as I just ended my note, Ken, talking about 4 of these undrafted players having such an impact. Saw it last night. Gabe Vincent went off for a career best 29 points, or career playoff best 29 points to basically win game 3. So Ken, why have these undrafted players been so good for Miami in this postseason?
So it goes past just being good in this postseason for the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are a team that is built on a word that we hear a lot. It gets thrown around a whole lot in sports, and that is the word of culture. But it actually means something in Miami. And the other C word that I wanted to make mention of for
Just making sure we're
cool. I know you're a family show, so we can keep it nice and polite.
We're still for the kids.
So to the culture point first, we always hear about the Heat culture, which is, bring your hard hat to work. You're going to come in, you're going to play hard, you're going to play for the team. It's not necessarily about individual stats. It is that we, as a collective, are trying to achieve something. And if you cannot fit into that, then you will find yourself on the outside. You will find yourself on the outside. So the culture part, I mean, if someone else wants to really harp on that one, I'll leave that to them. But the coaching is the part that I really wanted to talk about. Because there's one thing if you can build your team up, by trading for players and getting all these superstars and having 4 and 5 all-stars on your squad, nobody is going to give you much credit as a coach if you can manage to win with that kind of talent, because you're supposed to be able to win if you have more talent than everybody else. However, if you as an organization can identify traits within players and you can decide that these players are the kind of persons that we want to have representing our organization, and then you are going to take said folks and coach them up to the point where when they came into the league, maybe they were not the greatest. Maybe, they just had 1 or 2 traits that may have put them an NBA standard, but they were not NBA players, because we can go to any YMCA, we can go to any fitness, and we can see guys that can shoot the lights out, but they don't have any discipline. They don't have any fitness levels. They don't have anything. All they can do is shoot because that's all they practice. Or they can probably break it down off the dribble because that's all they practice. To be an NBA player, it calls for a lot more than that. And what the Heat have done very well is identify the players that have traits that they can use, like Duncan Robinson, who for a while was the statistically best three-point shooter in the NBA, but he really can't defend a lick. So he was out of the rotation, but no, needs must. He's back in the rotation. And even like in the last game, you saw Robinson not just looking for the three, but beating men off the dribble, going to the hole and laying it up. So exactly. So you can see from when you watch that they are learning, they're doing things that can benefit the team and also take their game to another level. So for that, it has to be not just the culture of the organization, but their coaching, both as a collective, when you see the players that they run, and their individual coaching, the work that they put in individually, so that when we look at them, even though you can say, okay, they're not lottery picks, they're not even draft picks, they're undrafted players, they have earned their way onto the roster and to be able to perform in the NBA.
Do you agree, Jerm? Do you have a third seat to throw in that mix?
No, I literally wrote it down. 2 words: Heat culture. I mean, it's not just one thing with Miami. It's a combination of Spoelstra being a really good coach, having a history of squeezing or maximizing talent. He's been doing it the whole time. Having a star player that is going out there to go get it, and a great executive who, again, I mean, I don't know. He's really good with cheap labor. The only people better than getting the cheapest labor and the best production is the Kings out in Qatar. I mean, there's nobody else. And so, shout out to Pat Riley.
No, Phil Knight and Nike will have a word with
Phil
you.
Knight.
So hold my beer.
Interesting stat I came across today. Pat Riley, if he makes it to these NBA finals, which I think he will, as a player, coach, and executive, he will be involved in 25% of all the NBA finals in NBA history.
Yep.
Again, between being a player, coach, and then now a front office executive, which, I mean, that has to put him in the GOAT status somewhere. I mean, I don't know, to make something up for him, but to have somebody like that at the top of your organization making the moves and personnel and drafting, I mean, that's what you would want. That's a perfect organization, in my opinion. And I think the Heat need to get, I don't think they get put in that class, right? Lakers get put in that class. The Celtics, I know they have all the banners and stuff, but in terms of running an organization, having these undrafted, going out and just finding undrafted players, and then as an 8th seed, having the success they've had the last couple of years has been really amazing.
And here I thought Jerry West would have been the best in terms of NBA executives, but being a part of
Jerry West couldn't do this
25%.
with Max Strus. Sorry, he couldn't do it.
You best believe it. I mean, Neil, is there anything really to add here?
No, there's nothing to add. Ken and Jerm hit the nail on the head. Is the culture. Like I was watching a clip from a podcast, Knuckleheads with Bam Adebayo, and he was saying like, you know, and many players have said it before. If you are not about putting on your hard hat, holding yourself accountable and those around you accountable, and having others in the organization hold you to an account on a high standard, then this ain't for you. It's not just about winning. It is about making sure you're in position to win. Sure, you may play all but 5 minutes an entire season. Collectively, you may play, you know, a handful of minutes. But when the lights get brightest and they call your jersey number, you must be able to perform. I mean, granted, we're seeing some of these undrafted players playing amazingly. Vincent, Strus, they're playing incredibly. But this is a testament to the culture which is cultivated from the top. Pat Riley, coming all the way down to coaching staff, all the way down to scouting, the scouts. The entire organization is built around making sure that they have the right mentality players. Because, guys, we know if you have the best mentality, if you have the right mentality, you can achieve anything. It matters not if you are a Goliath. You could be David. Once you have that mentality, you will be able to slay that giant, that dragon. And we are seeing that with Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, right? They're just, I mean, that is a culture where, and the great thing about that culture is that it beats out those prima donnas, those divas, those guys that are not necessarily about the right things. Can you imagine a Kyrie Irving playing there, a Ben Simmons playing there? Can you imagine, you know, like some of these Anthony Davis? These are great players. These are great players. But do they have the right mentality to really get the job done? And we're seeing this with the Miami Heat, right? Like they went to the bubble in 2020. Everybody was like, everybody was talking about a fluke or whatever. Then in the last couple of seasons, they were kind of, thereabout, not really making any noise. And it further was making everyone say it's a fluke, it's this, it's that. But you can see it now. As Jerm said, thank God for the playing. This should be Adam Silver's shining glory to say, look, the playing works. Because here you have a team that in the regular season was average at best. And they're showing that we are better than most teams in the East. This seeding thing don't make no sense, right? It's all about the heart. You throw on the intangibles, the heart, and who wants it more, and all of these, terms that can be quantified or measured. But it seems as though the Heat have found a formula to identify that characteristic and to bottle it in players that they have. Like Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry is a shadow of his former self, but he's on the floor making meaningful minutes. Shoot, even if you look at the veterans, you have Kevin Love, you have Haslam. Even those guys are not playing huge minutes. They're fitting into the culture of holding everyone accountable. Can you imagine Kevin Love on this team? I couldn't, but he fits. Why? Because at this stage in his career, it ain't no more about getting the 25 and 15. It is about making sure you can do what you have to do to make sure your team, there's no ego. There's no, calling out men for not doing their job on the sideline. Everybody in that huddle is prepared. They are ready, right? Yeah, they may have slumps. They may go through shooting woes or whatever, but because they're so prepared, shoot, Duncan Robinson could go on a stretch. Can you imagine Tyler Hero is not playing and this team is blowing out the number 2 seed, Boston Celtics, by 30 in a game 3 in the Eastern Conference Finals? If that doesn't speak to culture and ensuring that you're taking guys that are obscure and trusting them enough based on what they've shown you and their preparation and their mentality and hard work to get to the next level, then I don't know. You just don't watch basketball enough. I don't know what to say.
I'm not going to extend this segment any further other than to say, I think Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo say it best when talking about this Heat culture. They say not everyone is built for this, and it is clear. And as Neil and all three of you, have pointed out, the Heat, led by Pat Riley, have found a way to identify the players that fit their culture. Most people would have looked past Jimmy Butler, and they were like, nah, this is the kind of guy we want. They were the ones who drafted Bam Adebayo, I want to say either 12 or 13, because they know he embodies their culture. And then these undrafted players, one by one, I know the reality of the situation is that most of them are primarily jump shooters. But like y'all said, like Duncan Robinson fell out of the rotation because he could not or would not defend. And he only got back in A because of Tyler Hero's injury, but B, and most importantly, he committed to that side of the floor because that's the standard, that's the culture to which you're upheld once you put that Miami Heat uniform. So, like, the reason I think that these set of undrafted players work, as y'all all said, is culture will not belabor this point anymore. But usually with a series, when there's a victor or a winning team on the other side, they must be a loser. So, Jerm, granted, so many people had this Boston team pegged as title favorites at the start of the season. They ended up with the second best record, and now they have not won a single game in this Eastern Conference Finals. What the hell has gone wrong up there in Boston?
I thought about this question, and honestly, nothing. Nothing's went wrong. The basketball is a game of matchups, and the Heat match up good with the Boston Celtics. That's just the reality of the situation. Just like the Celtics are a bad matchup for my Sixers, which is why we can never get past them. The same could be true for Miami. Miami is just making sure Jason Tatum doesn't take over the game. They're making sure they are moving on the ball. They're using their small. They don't have a true big, so they're just basically beating the Celtics at their own game, chasing people, making sure they don't get their play set. It's just a bad matchup. And then you have Jimmy Butler, who is playing out of his mind and leading that team, willing them. It's just you guys, Neil and Ken said it. It's the Heat want it more. They're hungrier. Period. They're the 8th seed. Can Boston have? Oh, we got past the Sixers. Smooth sailing from here. Is there a little bit of that? Maybe. But for 3 games and then getting blown out by 30 or whatever the point total was. I mean, at halftime of that last game, the Heat's 4 undrafted players had 36 points, and Tatum, Brown, Horford, and Smart only had 30. Like, if the only thing that went wrong is that the Heat are just playing better. I don't think there's anything Boston's doing differently than they did all through the playoffs. They're not making shots, and the Heat are making shots. I know that sounds simple. It's an oversimplification, but at the end of the day, basketball's about matchups and runs. And the Heat are just on this crazy run that can't be stopped.
It is indeed a make or miss league, so I guess that's what it is. Ken, are you going to say, oh, well, Miami just played better, or is their fault? Do you have somebody that you want to point fingers at?
So it's interesting that you phrased it for me that way. Because
back to the original question. What's
no,
going on
I
in Boston?
didn't have a
That
problem
better know,
with you putting it that way because that was a direction that was going to kind of go. So one of the things that has gone wrong for Boston, especially in this particular series, is that their 2 best players who have been finding ways to skate by with some inconsistency all throughout these playoffs are no longer being able to do so. Because if you remember, during the series against Jerm's Sixers, Jason Tatum went missing for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden won the game by himself in the 4th. Miami's not giving him an opportunity to do that. So if he's not bringing it from opening tip, he's not really getting an opportunity to shoot himself back into the game as the game progresses. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is supposedly his Robbie, the number 2 player on this Boston Celtics team, Jaylen Brown. If you want to, if you're gonna look to see where things have really fallen apart, like okay, for example, if you wanted to see where things really went wrong for Golden State, you look at Jordan Poole, whose shooting numbers fell off a cliff compared to last season. But look at Jaylen Brown this season in this Eastern Conference Finals. He's shooting 38%, 37.7% from the floor. He's shooting 10% from 3-point range, 50% from his free throws. He has a minus 46 plus minus. If you're supposed to be the second best player on a team, how do you allow yourself to have a minus 46 plus minus? And he's actually have passing the ball to the other team more than he's passing to his teammates for points. He has 11 turnovers to 10 assists. So when you take all of that into consideration, your second best player who you're depending on to give you 25 to 30 points a night is shooting this poorly in 2023 NBA where the 3-point shot is king and he's literally 1 for 10. It's like he's paying tough. That's the one that he's going to hit and he's giving the 9 to the opposition. What is this? There's nothing that he is doing right now that is putting his team in a position to win. And unfortunately for them, they don't have anybody else that they can turn to and say, well, Jalen isn't giving it to us, so no, we're going to get you to do it instead. You can't ask Marcus Smart to do that because Marcus Smart will shoot you out of the games, a la Dylan Brooks. You can't ask Al Horford to do that because he just can't. Bam is giving him the work on the inside, so he can't do that. You're not going to ask Derek White and his interesting hairline to do it. You're not going to ask 6 man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon. He's 6 man of the year for a reason. There's a reason why he's not starting. He's doing good off the bench, but he's not doing good enough to be a starter. So who else? There's nobody else. So there are a lot of issues that are there, and I'm sure that you guys will touch on a couple others. I don't want to carry out all of them, but I'm looking at Jalen Brown specifically, and the fact that they have just been too inconsistent all season long, especially in these playoffs, where you can't expect somebody to play poorly for 3 quarters and then think that this Heat team is going to give you an in to get back into the game in the fourth.
Neil, has Ken left any points behind for you to touch on?
Not really, but I'll try to make it something here. In my opinion, right? In my opinion, Jerm did hit some points there that I kind of fully endorse and agree, and I want to expand a bit from my perspective in terms of wanting it more. I do think certain things have been confirmed, I think, in this Eastern Conference Finals, right? Last season, last playoffs, while Boston Celtics were in the finals against the Golden State Warriors, a lot of people questioned Jason Tatum's star status. Is he really that person? Is he that person that can, carry a team? And, the excuse was he's young. He said he's going to go back. He's going to go back to the drawing board, challenge that inner Kobe some more. Everybody was saying, yeah, he can put in that work and he can do that and be that dog. And he can come back this season and he's going to show you. He is exactly showing us the same thing. Right? And this is no fault to Jason Tatum, right? I just want to be clear because there are some guys, as we all know, as the playoff goes on, they're going to the schemes and the defense and everything like that are going to be more focused on certain plays and players and certain plays, right? So when you have Jason Tatum, you know what Jason Tatum loves to do, and more importantly, what he does not like to do. Then when you have a team like the Miami Heat that love to be disciplined, focused, and ensure that they take away any and everything and make you work, that is exactly what's happening to Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, he has to take this page out of Kobe's book. The page where it's like, you watch your film and you say, okay, these are my problems. These are my faults. These are things that I cannot do. I don't feel comfortable doing, or I need work to do. Right. Then you go into the offseason and say, this season, I am not doing anything, but let's say dribbling with my left hand, going to the left off the dribble, getting double team. How do I work on that? What do I see? Right? Work on taking better shots. Work on being a better passer. Working on not forcing the offense when it comes to Jason Tatum is a great player, gentlemen. He is a great offensive player. He is
very good. Very good player. Very good.
To me, he's a great scorer. Hey, Melo retired today and he was a great scorer.
Yeah, no argument there.
Right? Great player, but he will not be anyhow. I leave out that bad joke I was gonna make. But no, Jason Tatum needs to. I think this is a combination of his mind, because we just talked about what the Miami Heat has over every other team in the NBA, which is the stoicism and the mental focus to get it done. We talk about John Wick. No, John Wick 4 in theaters, a man of sheer will and determination. That is Miami. And when you look at the Boston Celtics, they're not necessarily about that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that they're not about winning, but is your focus there? We saw some celebrations from Al Horford, Grant Williams, some guys saying and doing some things in the first two games where it's like, yeah, but you haven't won yet. And you haven't won anything in the series yet. You know what I mean? So it's like what we are seeing here is a bit of ego hubris playing out. And I think that nobody mentioned Joe Mazzulla. I mean, nobody mentioned Joe now. I mean, Joe sticking to his guns and saying, you know what, we're going to outshoot them and outscore them because we have more talent. And they do, but they don't have the heart, right? And by the time he's looking to make adjustments, there's a meme I saw where Joe Mazzulla, when they go on a 20-0 run, he's sleeping. But when Spo, the man up 30 and the man go on a 2-0 run, a 4-0 run, I call it timeout, right? So it just goes to show that the Boston Celtics do have the talent and they do have some heart. It's just that, as Jerm said, matchups, and as Cam mentioned earlier, culture. And when you mix all of those together for the Heat over the Celtics, this is where they're losing. Jason Tatum needs to go back to the drawing board and seriously consider working solely and only on what he cannot do, what he is uncomfortable doing. If he wants
which is passing and finishing at the rim in traffic, is what you mean to say, right?
Hey man, if he got go back to if he has to go back to the fundamentals and basics, he needs to do that. But this is a bad look for Jason Tatum in that he is disappearing. And the entire NBA is saying, yeah, we know what you don't like, but we really know what you don't like. No, we can let you do that in the regular season because the Heat is showing that the regular season doesn't matter. But show us in the playoffs, show us when you have to see us every other night. Let's see you do that.
So for me, guys, it's three things that have gone wrong in Boston. And this is not to say that Jerm is not right, because this does seem to be a bad matchup. But for me, there are three things that have gone wrong, in my estimation at least. The very first thing is that this is a team that traditionally has relied on its defense since the formation of Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. And for whatever reason, the defensive focus is not there, to the point like you're seeing blown assignments. And there is a reason that these undrafted players are shooting lights out from behind the arc. And that's because they're open. And whether it is missing detail or being undisciplined or the Heat's execution, Boston Celtics defense has been bad. And not just bad in this playoffs, but apparently the slippage was starting from midway through the season and you're seeing it now. And I'll get to why that is such a huge problem. Weirdly enough, I can't believe I'm about to say this, Stephen A. Smith actually provided stats showing the actual individual slippage from each defender, showing that their best perimeter defenders from Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Grant Williams have all been surrendering, here to say, 50% or better on all of their primary matchups. Like, this is a team known for its defense. And why that is a main problem, gentlemen, because number two, this team has always had offensive inefficiencies. And to Neil's point, the problem is their two best players are not good passers or playmakers. It has always been the case. And this is one of the, this has plagued them for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in particular are two very, very bad passers. Ken brought up the point that how Jaylen Brown has more turnovers than assists, and that does not shock me because I see how both of them play. And part of that problem is again, no, you saw Boston try to address that in these last couple of seasons by bringing in Derek White, by bringing in Malcolm Brogdon, and having Marcus Smart start with the ball. It's not by coincidence, gentlemen. It's because their best players, if they start the possessions with these best players, it is either going to end up in a shot or more likely a turnover. And what have we said from last season, the season before, Also, when they lost the NBA Finals last season, the turnovers plague Boston, and it is solely because their two best players, you can't put the ball in their hands and expect anything than a shot because they are poor passers. The third point in which Neil wanted me to bring home, and I'll do it for you now, is that Joe Mazzulla was not ready. And I don't want to harp on a man, especially a black man, getting a job, an opportunity. Whether he's a bad coach or not is left to be seen. I don't know if he's going to get more opportunity, but it's clear whether it's from defensive rotations, from the mere fact that this situation with Robert Williams, I don't know what he's doing, whether he's starting Robert Williams or he's benching him, or he's not playing him down the stretch. All well, Al Horford is struggling from beyond the arc. It is clear Joe Mazzulla does not know what he's doing with rotations. Then you see in late games, like it is not only in this Miami series because you would expect that he's not as good as a coach as Eric Spoelstra, but even against Philadelphia, and none of us really rate, Doc Rivers very highly, but he was being outcoached in late game situations. And if you're being outcoached in late game situations by Doc Rivers, you have a hell of a problem going on right there in Boston. And quite frankly, gentlemen, I don't like to say this because I don't like to, guess a heart of a person, but I get the feeling that the Boston Celtics quit on Joe Mazzulla last night. And I have a team that's quitting. The first person to point out is the coach. So that gives me the perfect segue. It's almost like I planned this, didn't I? It gives me the perfect segue into the next segment, Ken. Should Joe Mazzulla be fired?
So I've been seeing this question being bandied about quite a bit over the last couple of days. And
don't dipsy doodle.
No, I can dipsy doodle.
Should he be?
I can come with an answer. I can come with an answer now. So I've been seeing, especially a lot of the Celtics folks, they have been more on the fire him than don't fire him. One of the reasons why they've been saying that you might not want to fire him is because if you fire him, then it's basically admitting how poorly the organization has handled this Ime Udoka situation. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't really know for sure what happened. We have a strong suspicion of what went on, but we don't know all the players involved. What we do know is that they decided to leak it to the media when they could have handled it in-house, and they could have given him a little suspension, and we would have not been any the wiser. But they chose to go down this road, and this is why now they find themselves in the situation that they're in. I don't think that Mazzulla should be fired at this point in time. And the reason why is when he would have come into the organization or would have stepped into the head coaching position, he came into this position first as an interim because they did not decide for sure what they were going to do with Ime. They just wanted to hold him long enough that he wouldn't go somewhere else during the regular season. And then when they decided that nobody else was going to probably take him at that point, then they kicked him to the curb. So he came in not sure of what his future would have been. He would have been doing what Ime would have wanted with the team in the off chance that he did come back. And then when he was given the role full time, no, it's his time, it's his team. He now has to figure out what he's going to do going forward. That's not a comfortable position for anybody to have to function in, let alone a head coach of a basketball team that's expected to win the championship. To his credit, he was able to keep the team afloat. They were playing very good basketball for the majority of the season, and they finished with the second best record in the NBA. Kudos to him, kudos to them. But we have to give him an opportunity to learn from his mistakes. And he has made some mistakes in this postseason. He has been outcoached by Eric Spoelstra. There's no harm in saying that because Spoelstra is a fantastic coach. But to say no, well, you've not done a good enough job, so we're just going to get rid of you. That to me doesn't make any sense. I remember when Brad Stevens was there, he wasn't an overnight success. Ime came in when Stevens had run his course. He was not going to be able to get that team any further. And to give the keys to the kingdom to Ime, he took the team, a little bit further than Stevens was able to do. And then, he was knocking boots with somebody that he probably should not have been. So out he went, and in comes Mazzulla. I would say you have to give Mazzulla an opportunity to learn on the job. This is not an easy league to come into and expect instant success. This is his first head coaching job. He's dealing with some younger players, but not necessarily young players, because when we think young players, we're thinking of the 18 to 20 range. But Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're not the oldest nor the youngest. I think they're in their mid-20s right now. And then you have a few veterans. You have some other youngsters that are around. Give him an opportunity to continue to learn and continue to grow up. If the Celtics never win another championship, I'll be very happy. That's the Lakers history in me that's going to come forward, right? If they never hang banner number 18, I will be the happiest man alive. But at the same time, I would rather see them give Mazzulla an opportunity to continue to grow with this team, to continue to develop. And if the team is quit on him, you get rid of the players that have quit and bring in other players now that are going to work for the badge, that are going to work for the club and work for the coach. And let's see where it goes, maybe in a year or two.
Jerm's got on the black shirt, so that means that Jerm is ready for Black Monday and ready to fire people, right?
Ready to fire Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Get out of here. They quit. They should quit. No, Joe Mazzulla. And this wouldn't.
Your mic is a bit low, Jerm. I'm not sure why.
Oh. How about now? How do I sound now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Sorry about that. This wouldn't be an appearance by yours truly on this show, your show, without mentioning Josh Allen. And I'm going to make a Josh Allen parallel. Guys, Josh Allen had a passer rating of 67. He only threw for 2,000 yards, had 10 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in his rookie season. He ranked 32nd, right? 32nd in passer rating in 2018. Do you know how many NFL teams there are? 32. He was dead last. And now look at him. All right? Where would the Bills be if they gave up on Josh Allen? Boston needs to relax. First off, no, Joe Mazzulla shouldn't be fired. No, he shouldn't be a scapegoat because he wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. He's a rookie head coach who is clearly over his head. And what are we talking about here? They were the number 2 seed, and they are in the Eastern Conference Finals. You're going to fire the guy? Who are you going to get? Who are you going to get? One of the other fired coaches? You're going to get Dwayne Casey out there? The old ass Dwayne Casey, old peanut butter face Dwayne Casey, can't coach the Detroit Pistons with a star. Yeah, Dwayne Casey looks like he's always got peanut butter in his mouth. I can't stand him. Every time they show him on the screen, he's worse than Mike Woodson. Every time I see him, I get annoyed. Anyway, who are you going to get then? You're going to get Doc Rivers back in Boston? Is Brad Stevens going to come? The guy you fired, Brad Stevens, or you made up some job to scapegoat him out because he was doing a terrible job? What are you going to do? No, you ride it out. You give the guy who got you to the 2 seed and the Eastern Conference Finals another year without any type of Nia Long, Ime Udoka beef, whatever they were doing over there in Boston. Give him a full off season, give him a draft process, give him some real time to be the boss and let him run the team the way he wants. And if he wants to get rid of Jaylen Brown and or Jason Tatum and or Robert Williams, who can't stay healthy, then fine, let him do that. But I'm not going to sit there and blame him because, one, the grass is never greener. Again, no pun because we're talking about the Celtics. But also, how much better do you want it to be? The Eastern Conference Final. Give me a first-year head coach that led a team to the 2 seed in an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. I know it's not going well now in these games, but I mean, you can't really ask for much else. I mean, I wish the Sixers did that with Doc in his first year. That'd be great. I would have begged for it. And I would have taken the 3-game loss in the Eastern Conference Finals with a smile on my face because it's year 1 of a brand new coach. So people need to relax.
I'll do one better. I'll give you a rookie head coach that went to the NBA Finals was up 2-0. Oh, wait, Boston just got rid of him. So, Neil, Are you firing Joe Mazzulla or are you keeping him in house?
No, I'm not firing Joe Mazzulla. See, the question is, should Joe Mazzulla be fired? That's not the right question. Will he be fired? Hell no. He will not be fired. You know why? Because the Celtics painted themselves in this corner. The optics look bad now.
Mhm.
Ime Udoka, he both there cavorting with subordinates and work colleagues and everything like that. Or there was a transgression and an infidelity. Ooh, he may do nothing wrong, you know. He did nothing wrong. In my opinion, should have keep that to himself. He should have be a little more discreet. Probably, well, not that it wasn't wrong. From a morality standpoint, it was wrong. But I mean, from doing what he did to be fired, he did nothing wrong. Now you have Joe Mazzulla. And remember when Joe Mazzulla had the C's clicking in the season? Everybody was saying, oh yeah, boy, this is plug and play. This, sexy. We're feeling good,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Now look
Mhm.
at you, 0-3, right? I know you'll be wondering to first Joe Mazzulla because of his bad rotations, his bad lineups, and his starting the wrong players and all sorts. No. Keep that same energy, right? What the C's now have to do is make a decision on Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and as Jerm said, Robert Williams and the others, right? You have to make a decision if to get rid of old pop down. What's that boy name? Al Horford, who is like 2 years younger than me and
Al
Justin.
Horford?
Yeah, right? And for those of you who don't know, Justin and I headed to mid-40s. You have this as your starting center.
Ooh, that black ain't cracking over there, boy. Look at y'all look good.
Hey, man,
Hey,
thanks a
y'all
lot,
good.
man. But the point remains, right?
Appreciate
that-
that.
No, I'm not as Justin would know, I'm not a bad-minded guy, right? Like, even the Celtics, there's a rivalry with the Lakers and stuff, but I am glad because y'all actually had the success. Yes, y'all fell short last year, and y'all had all of the right pieces to get back to the finals. Ime Udoka was a great coach. Everybody was singing his praises. Everybody was saying, boy, Ime, boy, out of that pop tree. Look at this man go. I know y'all want to keep and save optics. Put it all on the head coach. Get rid of him. And now we got Joe to the rescue. And now all of a sudden we don't know what to do with matchups and who to start. No, I'm glad. No, do not fire Joe Mazzulla. No. Keep that same energy. Make some decisions with your rotation. As Ken said, let him learn on the job because it's a very hard job. I don't agree with Ken saying that, you should hold the players accountable and everything. That is a player-driven league. And really, truly, if we were to fire somebody, it would be the head coach. But I am glad that this comes off of the heels of getting rid of Ime Udoka because no, you have no choice but to look at your players and look to see if it really makes sense to have somebody, Marcus Smart. Is that Bart really worth the bite? No. You understand what I mean? They have to look at their starting five. They have to look at some of their younger talent. They have Grant Williams, who's a really good player, even though he should shut his mouth and know his role. But at some point, you have to start looking at the team. And this is a perfect situation for fans of old-time NBA that like to see accountability in organizations. This ain't got nothing to do with the head coach. Joe Mazzulla coming in there and the C's making the second seed shows that it has the team coaches itself. According, like Shaq would say, coaches really don't matter. I don't agree, but in this instant, the team is good enough to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They are good enough to get to the second seed on autopilot. Not saying Joe Mazzulla, they have something to do with it. I'm just saying the team is that good. But know that you're in the Eastern Conference Finals and you're down 0-3 to an AF seed, and you can't, it will look real bad to get rid of the head coach now. You now have to look at your roster, and rightfully so, because you have Al Horford needs to go. Marcus Smart, in my opinion, should not be getting all the minutes that he's getting. Robert Williams is injured half the time. You got Jason Tatum, who, granted, is a lot of murder in the regular season, but you can't find the man when it comes to the playoffs, right? Jaylen Brown, and that's the thing. You got to make a choice, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. Look at Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown looked like the man that in the playoffs he's turn up and show up. Jason Tatum put a milk card on all no. APB out in Boston area looking for the man. So, in my opinion, I am glad he should not be fired. Do not fire him. I hope that this shines a light when it comes to this woke culture of making the decision for the optics, when really and truly all of that could have been sorted out in-house disciplinary thing, suspending man, probably pay or whatever, but they no need to fire immediately. The Celtics had a perfect situation. Can you imagine? You went to the finals last season, right? And you were literally, how many games it was? I think you were 2 games. Like, you were
They were up
there.
2-1.
You were there. You were there. All you had to do is go back to the drawing board and fix some things. When that email Udoka situation pop up, I said, email man, come on, man. You gotta keep it in your pants, man. Come on, man. You can't be doing these things, man. Come on, email, man. This look bad. We can suspend you, we can cut your pay, we can do something like that. But going forward, buddy, just understand that you can't really have these sort of fraternization things, especially with a married woman. They look bad. You got Neil Long, boss. Come on, you got Neil Long. Just relax. But you fire the man.
I mean, but honestly though, can you trust the guy who cheats on Neil Long to run your basketball team? Because I can't. That's crazy.
I can't. So here's the thing, right? Neil will tell you I probably made an entire podcast just hating on Boston Celtics. I have never had a good word to say about this organization, and I probably never will, especially this current iteration. I mean, it is a very good team, right? Don't make any mistake. And if I keep on the same vein, I should want Joe Mazzulla in the organization so that they will continue to crap the bed when they get to this stage. But I, in good faith and good conscience, can't say that. So should Joe Mazzulla be fired? Yes. And I'll explain why. The first situation is, right, that this team has had its offensive struggles for however long, right? But it's always hung its hat on the defensive side. And the moment that you have that big ton of slippage on the defensive end, something is wrong, especially when you have defensive players of the caliber of Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Al Horford, Grant Williams, Robert Williams. You should never be bad defensively. You should not be giving up 120 plus points to the Miami Heat, who were dead last or among the dead last teams in scoring during the regular season. That should not happen. No matter how hot those undrafted players get, defense is your calling card. So the mere fact, right, that you've seen slippage and huge slippage on the calling card of your defensive players, that is problem number one. But gentlemen, the reality of the situation, right, is that the players quit on it. I hate to say that because I don't know the heart and the mind of a human being, but I can't sit down and watch game 3 and not think that these players just gave up on him. And on top of that, when you hear them throughout the season, it is clear that one, the Boston organization told them not to talk about Ime Udoka, and two, the players never got over the Ime Udoka situation. It's clear that they're hanging on to that. Whether that's right or wrong, whether the organization is right or wrong, or whether the players needed to let go, that's another thing. But from looking at it, no. And it wasn't just that Joe Mazzulla is getting exposed during the Eastern Conference Finals. This has been going on all season long. Yes, they're that good that they made the second seed in the Eastern Conference and made the conference finals, but there was defensive slippage. And you just can't have that on a team that has its offensive struggles. But guys, one of you talked about it. The reality is maybe it's not just you need to fire Joe Mazzulla. I'm going to hold some flack from this from my Boston people, but it's time to break up this Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown duo. It's time to move on. And I say that, I said it before, none of the two of them are good playmakers. They're atrocious passers. And it feels like Boston's offense is your turn, my turn, or jack of three. And I mean, I know today's NBA is threes or layups, but the reality is Boston relies so heavily on three-point shooting. And part of that is the lack of playmaking from their two stars. They do not complement each other. And I think it is time to acknowledge the reason Boston has been so good for so long is that the team is good defensively and makes up for their stagnation on offense. Know that slippage has come. You are not going to beat the Milwaukees. You're not going to beat the Miamis. And they'll beat Jerm's Philadelphia 76ers. But those are they're two paper tigers over there. I think the only question is, what do you trade one of the two of them for? And I'd be calling Portland every single minute and trying to include a package of Jaylen Brown and whatever I can to get Damian Lillard. Because right now, there are two things. Jason Tatum, in my estimation, a very good player, but I do not think Jason Tatum is good enough to be your best player on a championship winning squad because of his offensive limitations and his flaws. And two, as I said, the two guys do not complement each other. They really don't. At least not in my estimation, not offensively. It is my turn, okay, your turn. Neither of the two feed off each other. They may like each other, but offensively it doesn't fit. Go ahead, Jerm.
Oh no, nothing. I wouldn't fire him. Like, I would much rather let him have control of the roster before I jump to firing him. Again, circumstances. I think he deserves a bailout year because he was kind of thrust into this. Now, if you can pry away one of these top end assistant coaches from a championship team,
Kenny Atkinson,
have at it.
Just saying,
Kenny Atkinson, maybe a Sam Cassell, somebody, I don't know, whoever. But they would have to be a high end, sought after, a Nick Nurse. I know the Sixers are talking to Nick Nurse. If you can get one of those guys, then fine. If not, I mean, again, look at the success you had with the players you have now. Maybe you do give it another shot. Maybe Peyton Pritchard being injured, Robert Williams being injured for bulk of the season. Maybe you get a free agent to replace Al Horford. I don't know. But to jump to firing the guy, I just think he's going to get a bailout because of the circumstances of him being quote unquote hired. You know what I mean? So I don't think, and you can't, things take time, right? I gave the Josh Allen parallel. I'll do another football one. John Gruden, right? They gave him that 10-year contract. The first 2 years, it didn't look too good. And all of a sudden, the Raiders are back. They're in the playoffs. They're having really good seasons. And then, whatever happened with him and his emails, that kind of got cut short. But again, think about if they bailed on that. You can't have success when you're continuously changing things. You have to have consistency. And you have to have ups and you have to have downs. He's never going to figure it out. And I'd rather him figure it out in year one when he has the excuse to not do well. And it wasn't even like he's not doing well. Again, he's in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I don't see firing him again unless you can get one of these high-end, really sought-after guys to take the job. To me, it'd be a little bit premature to get rid of him after 1 year. You need 3 years. You've been on my show. What do I always say? You have to have a 3-year sample size before I can judge you. I don't know if Joe Mazzulla is good or not. What I do know is that he has his team in the Eastern Conference Finals in year one. That's all I know, without a real offseason with him in charge. So I gotta see more. And if he turns out to suck, then he sucks, and you'll be back where you're at anyway. So just stick it out, man. Just go ahead and give it a shot.
I will say this. Oh, God, I give it a shot. I saw you.
Yeah.
But I will say this before I turn to Neil for the next segment. I don't expect him to be fired for two obvious reasons. One, if you fire him, you are acknowledging that you made a mess of the Ime Udoka situation, and Boston will never do that. But they know that they didn't do right by Ime Udoka. And secondly, probably more importantly, you do know if they do fire Joe Mazzulla, they will be going on 4 coaches in 4 straight years, from Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla, and then whoever else takes over.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I love it.
Beautiful.
Couldn't happen to nicer guys.
Could have a worse guys. But what I will say real quick, right, is that 2 things real quick. One, Joe Mazzulla, you keep saying, Justin, that the team quit on him. I am sorry to say I've been on a lot of basketball teams and stuff like that, right? And unless you have a strong mental fortitude, when you look at that that scoreboard, and you go on the 10-hour run and you still down 20, and the man no hit 2 threes and you call another timeout, it's really hard to be motivated. I am just sorry. Like, I understand Joe Mazzulla could have done a better job, but at some point as a coach, if your team is not engaged, you gotta say, all right, well, we can check y'all next game. I didn't know what to tell you. If y'all don't have the impetus to win a game 3,
He did that. He sat them the entire fourth quarter. He did that. It just I don't know. I feel like he's getting a lot of flack for
Right.
something.
Yeah.
What is he supposed to do? Leave it in there for them to get injured?
And that's
so you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you're him, so
Right.
I don't know. I think that's
I
a
agree.
little bit unfair. I do understand. I understand your point. But I mean, what was he supposed to do? Like, if he say he leaves them in and lets them do what they got. I get that they're pissed off, but they should have played better. So say they leave him in, and then Jason Tatum tears his ACL. Now you really don't have a shot. And so and then people are going to get mad at him for getting the franchise player hurt in the fourth quarter of a meaningless game 3. So I just think he's going to be easy to criticize because of the way the Celtics are going out, and I think people just need to have some perspective and some context to his entire situation. And I think I just disagree with jumping the gun to fire him, off of one playoff series that honestly, I don't think anybody's beating the Heat, right? The way they're playing, I think the Heat would have done this to everybody in the playoffs, West or East.
You had one more thing, Neil? Or
one more thing real quick, gentlemen. And here's a question. This is my hosting persona coming out, but similar to like the Heat with Pat Riley and Spoelstra, where there's kind of like an open door mentor policy or kind of strong suggestion from head office. Do you think something like that could happen with Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla? Like, do you think that? Because I do agree. I agree with everything Jerm just said, and that's the point I was trying to make. Is like being down 30, going on a 10-hour run, and still looking up and seeing you down 20, and then seeing the other team come and hit 2 threes. It makes you feel like we can't get through this. You know what I mean? And you can't coach that. You unless you are, I don't know, Joel Epps. Not Joel Epps. Who is one of them sports persons that those?
Definitely not Epstein. Not
Epstein. No, sorry. Names flubbing right now. But if you are one of these life coaches or whatever, you could speak life into these men and say, we down 20. They went on a 6-0 run. You know what, gentlemen? It looks bad now, but you can do it. Give this coach Carter. We are the Titans. Remember the I don't know, But I was just wondering real quick.
That's where you're going.
Yeah. Brad Stevens, I think that there should be some sort of mentorship there. Even though it may be happening still, but it's like, you know what? This is a rough one. We expect you guys to get to the finals, but it's been a rough year for you. And we come up against the ghost of Michael Jordan and Jimmy Butler. Let's take it easy. Let's go forward and let's build from this and allow the front office to do what they have to do with the players. I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to break up Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. I just know that they need to get a true point guard in there, and they need to get younger people at the younger and healthier people at the forward and center positions. That's all I can say about that.
Well, speaking of a team that's actually healthy and thriving right now, the Denver Nuggets.
Oh, God.
Sorry about that, Neil.
Oh, hold on.
Well, I'll start with Ken, though. Considering Denver Nuggets are leading the league in point differential, 3-point shooting, have not lost a game at home, and have currently dismantled every team in front of them, are these Nuggets the title favorites? No, Ken.
So the short answer to that question is yes. Because if you look at the bookies and what the odds are saying, the Nuggets have the best odds of everyone to win the NBA championship. And to go a little bit further than that, I think one of the things that we are seeing from the Nuggets in this playoff series, and you guys know that that's where I live. I live in Denver. I do not root for the Nuggets, but it's a little difficult not to root for them when I'm living here. The team is doing well, and they have some players on the squad that you'd like, and everyone around you likes them, so it gets a little bit more challenging. But one of the things coming into this playoffs that we were hearing all along was that is like hard to make sense of what's happening in the Western Conference because seeding does not really seem to matter. You had the Lakers at the 7, but we didn't know what to make of the Lakers coming into the playoffs because the entire roster was rebuilt basically from the studs up at the trade deadline. You had the Golden State Warriors, defending champions, who couldn't win games on the road. You had the Sacramento Kings, who nobody saw them coming to be the 3rd seed. But you always had the Nuggets, who have been one of the top 4 seeds in the West for the last 3 or 4 years, and who played good enough, especially early on in the year, to be the number 1 seed in the West. Yes, they faltered a bit coming down the stretch. They lost some games, which allowed for Jerm's Joel Embiid to get in there and win the MVP. Especially when we had all these conversations about how the Nuggets have never really been a contender for the championship, and the Nuggets are this and the Nuggets are that, and how can you give Jokic 3 straight when this one hasn't gone 3 straight and this other player hasn't gone in 3 straight? But no, they get into the playoffs and they look like the number 1 seed. The Minnesota Timberwolves, again, Chris Finch is the worst coach in the playoffs. They did what they were supposed to do. You're not going to let a bad team with a bad coach hang around. You dispatch them in 5 games. We get some rest and we wait for the next round. They come up against your Phoenix Suns in the second round of the playoffs, Justin. And in the second round of the playoffs, what do? Devin Booker is having a playoff run for the ages, except for games 5 and 6, when the Denver defense suddenly reappeared and shut him down to the point where in game 6, they had a 30-point lead and Monty Williams had a goal. This has been the playoffs right now where the Grim Reaper has just been swinging his scythe left and right because coaches that make it to the playoffs are not surviving past the next week after they get eliminated. So now the Nuggets are in the Western Conference Finals playing against the vaunted Los Angeles Lakers, a team that has the best defense since the trade deadline, a team that has basically not lost or lost maybe 1 game all postseason at home. And they're up 3-0, currently down 8 points. But the fact still remains that the Nuggets have been playing very, very well. And this even goes past just who I thought should have gotten the MVP in Nikola Jokic. This goes past just the Jamal Murray. This goes past whoever you want to say is supposed to be their 3rd player, because the 3rd scorer is coming up different every game. You have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's giving you 20 points every so often. You have an Aaron Gordon, who isn't scoring as much, but is giving you a lot of defensive effort. You have a Michael Porter Jr., who is giving you 15 to 20 every game. And in the very first game of the Western Conference Finals, you had 4 role players that finished with 15 points. The scoring is being spread out. And if you're getting 60-plus points from those who are not your stars, not your get on my back and let's go guys, I'm as good as Miami has been doing and Jimmy has been playing, it is very hard at this point to look past what Denver is doing in these playoffs.
Sorry, Ken, but you really put this question for these 2 men. But I agree with you, though. But these 2 men coming here, Denver, these 2 men, I mean, there's no disagreeing, Ken. It just can't be. Right, Jerm? Denver's the best team remaining in the playoffs, right? And title favorites?
I'll say logically, probably so, because it only took 3 games of Miami beating Boston for them to be 2-point favorites in a game 4, which is unbelievable to me. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, sure, Denver probably are going to be the title favorites. But I think that has less to do with Denver rather than an 8th seed taking it to the 2 seed. And people in Vegas aren't really buying that. But I mean, Denver's been a good team, a top team all season, and Miami has it. We talked about it earlier. I think Ken said it earlier that they've been largely pedestrian, or maybe it was Neil. One of the 2 said it, and they're right about that. Miami's been cruised throughout the regular season, just made sure they made the playoffs, and then when the playoffs start, it doesn't really matter what your seeding is. If you believe in your matchup and you play well and you have a good game plan, it doesn't really matter, I guess, what your seed is. So. I guess the Nuggets should be title favorites just simply because the West has been better than the East in terms of the top heavy teams, and Denver's gone through them. So you go through that juggernaut in Phoenix, who I think are better than anybody in the East. Then I guess I would have to say that you're a title favorite.
Hey, Neil.
I want to say here officially, right? As I look around at the panel and when I got the name of the pre-production, I literally call Justin Marvel a sour dog. He is a sour dog. He knows full well why all of us would have a reason to not want to talk about the Denver Nuggets. No. Let's just talk about the question in front of us. Are the Nuggets the title favorites? Yes, they are. Simply because, Kenneth Jerm said it perfectly. I can't dispute that. I can't say anything different toward that or anything like that. I just want to point out, I'm going to use my time here allotted at my segment to say Justin Marvel is a scumbag, a scoundrel amongst producers, because there is no reason why you should have two Laker fans and a Joel Embiid supporter, 76ers supporter, why we should be sitting on here having to talk about how the Nuggets are the final favorites and how the next topic we're going to be talking about is Jokic being the best player in this NBA. Not when we have the Miami Heat out there destroying the number 2 seed Boston Celtics.
That's why, hold on, the first 4 segments of this show dealt with the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics, did they not? I made sure.
You see,
notice that his Phoenix Suns didn't make the segments of anything. He didn't even want to talk nothing about Phoenix.
Jerm
he skipped
sees
the
it.
show. We saw it. You skipped the show the Monday after Phoenix got eliminated.
To be fair, Neil will tell you, my last show was supposed to be an all Phoenix Suns episode until somebody decided that there were Yosemite Sam and started putting up guns, and I had to change that in the last minute. But Neil can tell
I got to check to see if you doctored that video. If you had that video doctored to have John Moran being the focal point last podcast.
Neil can tell you, right?
He's like, John Morant. Well, let's go ahead and talk about that. There's nothing to talk about there.
Neil can tell you I had an entire all Phoenix Suns episode till the go. We'll talk about Yosemite Sam another thing. But yeah, I mean, Denver has to be the title favorites when you look at the situation. As I said before, they're leading the playoffs in 3-point shooting, I think, at 39% from behind the arc. Then you talk about point differential, which is the easiest way to rank any team. They lead in that. And when you lead in that category, it means that you are beating teams and not just squeaking and easing past them. And then when you look at the roster, 6 players starting 5, and I want to say Bruce Brown, are all averaging double digits. And not just averaging double digits. I think Jamal Murray is averaging, about 28 points per contest. And then we get to Nikola Jokic, a 30-point triple-double. So, I mean, as I'm here on Nikola Jokic, Jerm, don't worry, I'm going to start for you. Yeah. Like, Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA right now. And as
that's a lie.
And as a Giannis Antetokounmpo fan, it pains me to say that, right? But, like, when you're here averaging a 30-point triple-double in the postseason, not during the regular season, gentlemen, a 30-point triple-double in the postseason.
You hear this guy moving the goalpost? It don't matter when he. I mean, what do you talk? You know what, Justin? I'm done with you. Let me tell you about Nikola Jokic.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. Hold on.
Go ahead. Give me. Break out your Excel spreadsheet. Go ahead. Give us the stats that don't mean anything. Go ahead.
A 30-point triple-double in the postseason right now, right? And as you mentioned, Jerm, he didn't go through an easy situation in the playoffs. You went through Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, I don't really rate the Minnesota Timberwolves. You went through Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and now you are beating the brakes off of LeBron James and Anthony Davis with a 30-point triple-double. He was a 2-time MVP, who we can argue. I have no problem with Joel Embiid winning the award, but you can make an easy case that he should be the 3-time reigning MVP winner. And everyone said, but what about his, lack of success in the playoffs? Well, gentlemen, every time the Denver Nuggets are healthy, we're seeing them in the conference finals. They were here in the bubble. The 2 years that there was no Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray due to injury, they were not top of my Phoenix Suns. And now that he has a fully healthy roster, here we are again. So we're arguably saying we could have the 3-time MVP, a guy who is averaging a 30-point triple-double in the postseason and is leading his team to the NBA Finals. Gentlemen, how is this not the league's best player? Go ahead, Jerm.
Listen, the first off, your argument is full of fallacies. He's not leading them to anything. Hey, Neil, you watched the game the other night?
I did.
Who was the one that yet again dropped 37 and led that team? The one who always leads the team when it matters. His name's Jamal Murray, the same guy who was leading the team back into the bubble. I don't want to hear anything about Jokic, okay? You want to sit there and say arguably a 3-time MVP? I got an argument for you, Justin. He should have only won his first MVP this year. How about that? In 2021, the MVP should have went to Giannis. And last year in 2022, the MVP should have went to Embiid. Now, if you want to argue that he should have been the MVP this year, then I'm cool with that. Fine. But he's not a 3-time MVP. And the MVP is a regular season award. What happened, Neil, when Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic played each other earlier this season in Philly? Joel Embiid dropped 45 and 12 on his head to Jokic's measly little 22. Who sat out the fourth quarter of the All-Star game? The only quarter of the All-Star game that actually matters, when the players actually play hard. Who was out on the court? Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic? Nikola Jokic didn't sniff a second when the points really started to matter.
All-Star game.
When the best players in the world got together and played real basketball for one quarter. Yes, the All-Star game doesn't mean anything in totality, but what's the only time that those players actually play? It's the last quarter. That's when they turn it on. And Jokic was sitting on the bench because his style of play is unwatchable. It's why the Denver Nuggets have the lowest rated primetime games in all of the NBA, not since those San Antonio Spurs. Yes, Jokic can fill up the stat pad. He fills in the gaps very nicely. I'm not even saying he's not a bad player. What I'm saying is when the team really needs to get led, it's Jamal Murray that's doing it at all times. And Jokic is just there to fill in the gaps. And he does it really good. You know who Jokic is? Jokic is big country Bryant Reeves with a 3-point shot. That's all he is. Enjoy. Your
I know Ken does not believe this. Ken believes that Jokic is the best player in the league, right, Ken?
So I'd actually
go ahead, Ken. Give it to me.
Give Jokic the best player in the NBA. But I also don't agree with Jerm.
Oh, no.
Because, Jerm, boy, let me tell you. So, all right, so you just said, but first you made mention of, well, not the first thing you said, but the first thing I'm going to make mention of, you talked about the All-Star game and the fourth quarter. I didn't watch the All-Star game until the fourth quarter because that's when I expected that, we would have actually seen some competitive basketball. There was no competitive basketball played in this All-Star game this season. None. Because the amount of points that the team that ended up winning was ahead by. The other team didn't even bother to try. So there was nothing there. There was nothing for those players. There's no incentive for those players to.
But traditionally, the fourth quarter, you may not have liked the outcome of this All-Star game. I disagree with the competitive nature. I watched the whole game, and they played a lot more hard. They played harder in those quarters. What I'm saying, traditionally, the fourth quarter is, which you just said, you agreed with me. The fourth quarter is the one that matters.
Yeah.
Whether we liked this particular fourth quarter or not, the fact of the matter was, when it was time to really play the game, Jokic did not see the floor. They put the best players out there. Embiid was out there and Jokic wasn't, period.
Guys, don't let me get distracted, guys. Don't let me get distracted. Let me get on this fallacy of an argument that Justin Marvel has created.
So that's what I'm going to say. So quickly, guys, who do you agree or do you believe that Jokic is the best player in NBA?
No.
I don't think Jokic is the best player in the NBA because when you look at what he does defensively compared to like a Giannis, the gap between what Jokic does offensively and defensively to a Giannis offensively and defensively, I would give it to Giannis. I'm not giving it to Joel because while drawing fouls is a part of the game, as they've been telling James Harden forever, I know they're telling Joel as well, we don't come to games to see somebody shoot 20 free throws. So from that perspective, if I have to give that title to a player, I'll probably give it to Giannis right now. But what I see Jokic doing on the offensive end of the floor, nobody else is doing. He is doing it better than everyone right now in the NBA. So if you want to say the best offensive player, I'll give it to Jokic. If you ask me for the best overall player, then that's Giannis for me.
I agree.
Good.
I agree with Giannis.
My turn.
Go ahead.
My turn.
Your
Jokic
turn.
is not the best. But see, bringing it people up. Giannis is not the best. Not Giannis. Put me talking foolishness. Jokic is not the best player in the NBA right now. We're talking about right now.
Right now.
If I were starting a basketball team today. And I had to start with one franchise player. His name would be Jimmy Jimmy Get Buckets. You understand? I starting a team with. You gotta understand, right? You have Joel Embiid and Jokic. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have stars out there. But do you have heart? Do you have hustle? Do you have that je ne sais quoi? That soir de vie? That X factor that is going to help you win games. And that is Jimmy Butler. If I start a team today, it is Jimmy Butler I'm picking and anybody else around him. I could choose, if y'all choose Jokic, I'll go with Embiid. Y'all choose Embiid, I'm sorry. Are y'all watching these playoffs? Are you not seeing Jimmy Butler literally willing himself by his team, by example, to be beating the Boston Celtics? Now, granted, we just talked about the Boston Celtics and some of the deficiencies they have. But let's not fool our foot, gentlemen. If it wasn't for Jimmy Butler, there is absolutely no way or no rhyme or reason why they would be in this position. Do you understand? Do you understand that I understand Justin's stats and everything like that, and there's an argument for stats every now and then. I understand Jerm test, and there's a space for all of that. I understand Giannis Antetokounmpo and how he gets to the ring. I understand Joel Embiid and how he murders and defends and everything like that. I get it. I'm sorry, gentlemen. Give me 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists a night, and understand that I got a dog for a leader that will cause the other puppies to be dogs. Than Jokic.
Than 30, 13, and 10. That's what
now here's where the eye test can come in. No, that look good. But if you let's say Jokic has an off night. Let's say have a situation where you're defending Jokic well, right? Let's say that you have an ability to shut down Nikola Jokic, right? Then you gotta look to the Jamal Murray. You gotta look to Contavious Caldwell-Pope. You gotta look to Aaron Gordon. You gotta look to other players. That Brownie player, Michael Porter Jr. You gotta look to these other players to get it going, right? Now, granted, for Jokic, that's few and far between. But I can guarantee you that 99% of the time, I'm gonna get a dog in Jimmy Butler, regardless of stats. Jimmy Butler, this is the one time that will be the first to say that I would take the intangibles over a bona fide superstar.
Okay,
I would take Jimmy Butler.
The one thing I quickly want to say to piggyback off Neil's, the last thing I'm going to say about it is I'm glad I'm on this panel because we're all old enough to remember the 90s and 90s basketball. And this is where Justin Marvel's numbers, because he likes to bring out numbers, this is where his numbers betray him. In 1993 and 1997, Charles Barkley and Karl Malone won the MVP over Michael Jordan, who went on to win the NBA title. So does that mean that they're better than Michael Jordan? No. Of course not. So Nikola Jokic has 2 MVPs and 0 rings to show for it. I mean, this is the closest he's been towards.
One is coming.
Maybe. What I'm saying is you're making the argument that because he has these stats, he has these MVPs, that he's somehow the best. It's all about packaging. We just saw it with Joel Embiid. At the end of the day, could have Jokic won his 3rd one? Sure. But this is about storylines. The MVP is about packaging and storylines. And at the end of the day, it was Joel Embiid's turn because honestly, they both deserved it. And honestly, Giannis probably deserved it. If that was the case, Allen Iverson would have won every MVP from the year from 97 to 2009 when he stopped playing in Philly. Jordan would have won it every year he played, and LeBron probably would have won it every year until Giannis became, and Giannis should be winning it every year. So, deserving stats, all of that doesn't matter. You have to have there's other things beyond the numbers that feed into it, and so that's all I'll say about that.
Jimmy,
go ahead,
Ken,
but very quickly because we have to wrap up.
Of course. So my only pushback to this And because I live in Denver, I get to see a lot of Jokic basketball. A lot of the things, like Neil, you said that you're talking about having the dog in you. If you see enough Jokic basketball, you recognize that the same heart, the same fight, the same all that stuff that you just talked about, you will get that package in a big 7 foot Serbian. And Jokic is the kind of player that has shown repeatedly throughout his career that whatever you need from him in a game, he is going to give you. If you allow him to pass the ball, he's going to give you 15 assists. If you force him to score, like Justin Sons did, he'll give you 50 points. He will do whatever needs to be done to get his team over the line. And he does not necessarily have to, or he does not get to be the closer because there is a closer on his team. He can do all of the setup stuff. He can get you there, and then he is comfortable to defer to a Jamal Murray when he gets hot to give you 27 points in a fourth quarter to win the game. Because he is not the player that plays with the ego to say, I have to do it. It's not about me. It's about us. Same thing like the Heat culture. Whoever is hot, that is the player that we are rating. And they have ridden that all the way to a 3-love lead in these Western Conference Finals.
So as you mentioned,
Jimmy gets.
So okay, Neil. So as you're talking about players that you want and need, Neil, what do your Lakers need or want going into 2023-24?
All right, let me be professional.
You don't have to. We gotta go quickly. So
I'll set up.
Make it fast.
So what I think the Lakers need, to be honest, is just a bit more at the point guard position. I know there's Kyrie out there, but the point remains is that we do need a bit more of a steady hand there. I think that the unfortunate thing is that Anthony Davis is the only big that kind of makes sense. I know that Mo Bamba is out, but we do need a bigger front court, in my opinion. Not necessarily because when you look at the West, you look at the teams that are as somebody said today, you can be paying rent for the Nuggets for a long time for the Western Conference. So I think you need to combat that. I don't think there's a problem with Anthony Davis per se, other than his health and LeBron James and some Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves. They're cool, they're nice, everything like that. But if we could solidify the point guard position and we can solidify another big to kind of help whenever Anthony Davis is out, or to just help carry the defense, then I think it would be good to go, because Jokic is too much for Anthony Davis right now.
Sure.
Yeah, probably more consistent shooting. I think Austin Reeves is the only one that's hitting 3-pointers. D'Angelo Russell is sporadic, and they need help getting rebounds. I mean, Anthony Davis, traditionally not a big rebound guy. But yeah, so they probably need another big off the bench to help clean up, or they all just need to rebound better, but they just need more consistent shooting. Let's, like I said, it can't just be Austin Reeves out there.
Ken.
Yeah, they need a coach that has the balls to get the ball out of LeBron James' hands and stop this dependence on LeBron James. That's what the Lakers
coach
need
him
to
more
do.
yet. That coach him more yet.
This is the year 20 of LeBron James. And LeBron James in these playoffs, he has not shot the ball well. And especially when the Nuggets have been pushing pace, he may play relatively good for 3 quarters. When it gets to the 4th quarter, he tends to go missing. In this game, I think he's only missed like 2 or 3 shots so far. He has almost 30 points already in the first half. That's not sustainable. He has almost 30, and the Lakers have 65, I think. So where is the rest of the offense going to come from? Because the others are not really doing it. The roster has been rebuilt well to this point, but more still needs to be done, and they need to find a way to develop a system that does not depend on LeBron James putting on a Superman cape and doing everything.
I'll say this, whether I like it or not, they're going to have to pay Austin Reeves, who is going to hit free agency. How much that looks like or how much that is worth, I don't know. And yeah, he's going to get paid, no doubt about that. And Neil kind of touched on it, but it'll be more or less diplomatic. You have to move on from D'Angelo Russell, and depends on how much you pay Austin Reeves. It sounds crazy for me to say this. The only person who has been able to keep him in control of some sort is LeBron James. So I may look at Kyrie Irving, but if you don't have enough because you're going to have to pay Austin Reeves, then I think you should look at however you can get Fred VanVleet from Toronto. I think that is probably your best bet and go forward. But I will say that the Lakers have done a tremendous job in rebuilding the roster and quickly on the fly in the middle of a season at that when they were 13th in the West.
Sure.
Guys, we are way past time. Marsha is there killing me in the sidelines. So before we hop on out of here, Ken, please tell the lovely folks how to find you and what you have coming up next.
Yeah, so the Green Bears podcast, we are live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. if you're in the Pacific. The last couple of weeks, we've been talking exclusively basketball. We had Justin with us last week. He's going to be with us again tomorrow because we are having a ball breaking down what's happening in the world of basketball. So you can join us there. You can also find us everywhere that you find your audio podcast. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, everywhere. If you can't find us, you're not looking. So green like the color, B-A-J as in Jesus, and E as in escape. Like how we're going to escape over here shortly.
Same thing. How to find you, what you got coming up next.
Yeah, I am Jerm. I am a co-host of Stuff About Sports, and we are part of the mighty Give Us a Shot network. And you can find us at www.giveusashot.network. We got a whole bunch of podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube and all that other stuff. But the new website's revamped, so all of our stuff, all of our links are right there. So go check us out.
Neil,
Give us a shot.
People don't know that, or they may not know that you have other interests other than the hashtag This Just In. Go tell them.
Right. We have the Senate podcast every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. That is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and relationships from the perspective of men, specifically Black Caribbean men. So yeah, check it out if you want to be a better man, if you want to be kind of cautious on the dating market, if you just want some entertainment, because we're kind of funny, we have some shorts as well, you can check us out. And yeah, I have the Bad Movie Crew as well. We review movies. We haven't done something in a long time, but you know, you can check us out, BMC on Bad Movie Crew on YouTube. We talk about movies. And yeah, I see Mario Loki here saying he hope the Lakers get swept. I'm gonna keep it professional and classy on this show.
And there's also another bad movie for them to go and review called Fast X, but we won't really get into that. I'll let Neil deal with that. So please, I keep forgetting, but I'm going to put their links to all their stuff below in the comments or in the description. So please, that's the Senate podcast, Bad Movie Crew, Green Bears podcast, and everything under the Give Us a Shot network, from Stuff About Sports to Go Talk with Marcus. And I also want to say JT and the Dawn, and there's so much more on that network. So those 4 places, please go like, subscribe, follow all their content because it's great content. And when you're done with that and you're not following or subscribing our content, that means you're doing nonsense. So just go below, give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe. We are on YouTube every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. in the Caribbean. For our short form content, we are on, forgetting it already, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Hashtag This Just In. Please put in the hashtag None of You Want Max Kelman. So for Neil, for Ken, and for Jerm, I am indeed Justin of hashtag This Just In, signing out. Go follow all these guys on their networks, and we'll see you on Monday.
Peace and love.
I know that after tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars. No. I
Come take a look at my dream world.
Tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat. If you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star. Swag so fresh, you can put it in the jar.